All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're tracing the evolutionary tree of life, looking at the classification of living beings. Because, honestly, if you've ever looked at a mushroom, a mossy rock, and, say, a blue whale, and wondered how scientists actually make sense of it all without losing their minds, well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to see exactly how we organize the incredible, totally chaotic diversity of life on Earth into one brilliant structured family tree. So how do you organize millions of undiscovered and unnamed species without it turning into total chaos? Imagine walking into a massive library, right? But millions of books are just dumped in a giant pile on the floor. No genres, no authors, no alphabetization whatsoever. Just a mess. Without classification, studying life on Earth is literally that impossible. We need a system, not just to stick labels on things, but to figure out how every single living being actually relates to one another. Here's our game plan. First, organizing the tree of life. 2, Whitaker's 5-kingdom system. 3, Kingdom Plantae, the green world. 4 and 5, Kingdom Animalia, splitting into invertebrates and vertebrates. And finally, number 6, classification as evolutionary history. We'll build this biological scaffolding step by step, starting big and then drilling down into the specifics. All right, part 1, organizing the tree of life, going from chaos to order. Let's see exactly how early scientists tried to tackle this massive organizational headache.
For a really long time, scientists basically just grouped everything into 2 buckets, plants or animals. That was the old 2-kingdom system. But as our scientific knowledge deepened, we realized that just wasn't cutting it. I mean, you can't just call a microscopic bacteria or a fungus a plant just because it doesn't run around. They are fundamentally different at a cellular level. So we desperately needed an upgrade to a modern 5-kingdom system based on cellular structure and nutrition.
Which brings us to Section 2, Whitaker's 5-kingdom system, the blueprint of life. This is the crucial turning point, introduced in 1969.
Notice how American ecologist Robert Whitaker brilliantly separated life by complexity here. It's a real step-by-step progression. We start at the baseline with Monera. These are simple, single-celled, prokaryotic organisms without a true nucleus. Think bacteria. Then we step up to Protista, like the amoeba, which are eukaryotic but still mostly single-celled. Next up, fungi. Your everyday mushroom actually gets its own entire kingdom now because they're saprotrophic, meaning they absorb nutrients from dead matter instead of making their own food. And rounding it out, we've got the big ones, the highly complex multicellular autotrophs in Kingdom Plantae like ferns, and the multicellular heterotrophs in Kingdom Animalia like a whale. This is the robust foundation we still use in classrooms today.
Now, to actually navigate all these kingdoms, we use taxonomy. It's the branch of science dealing with identification, nomenclature, and classification based on shared characteristics. Really, just think of taxonomy as the master code for the whole system. It's what allows scientists globally to speak the exact same language. So when a researcher in Tokyo and a researcher in Brazil say Apis mellifera, they both know for sure they're talking about a honeybee.
Okay, moving on to part 3, let's zoom in on Kingdom Plantae, the green world, and trace this incredible evolutionary leap from the ocean to dry land.
This journey is just fascinating. We start out in the water with simple aquatic algae, which just have a basic thallus structure. Then, step 2, plants kind of crawl onto moist land as bryophytes. Think mosses. Scientists actually call these the amphibians of the plant world, because they live on land, sure, but they absolutely still need water to reproduce. Finally, step 3. We hit the tracheophytes. These guys develop true roots, stems, leaves, and crucial internal plumbing called vascular tissue. Once they had that, they were ready to fully conquer the continents.
Now, when we look a bit closer at those advanced tracheophytes, we see a massive evolutionary upgrade in reproduction. First up, we've got pteridophyta, like ferns. They've got the vascular plumbing, but they still reproduce using tiny spores. No seeds yet. But then boom, evolution gives us gymnosperms, like the cycasm or a pine tree. Huge leap here. They produce seeds. However, these seeds are what we call naked, meaning they aren't protected inside a fruit. Instead, you'll find them tucked away in structures like cones.
Which leads us to the final boss of plant evolution, the angiosperm. These are the most advanced flowering plants out there. Why? Because they figured out how to produce seeds completely enclosed within an ovary or a fruit. Honestly, that orange or banana you eat for breakfast, it's just a brilliant evolutionary strategy to protect the seed and completely manipulate animals into carrying those seeds far and wide. Pretty clever, right? And within those advanced flowering angiosperms, there's a clear split, something you can actually spot right in your own backyard. You've got monocots, like maize and bamboo, which have just one seed leaf, parallel veins on their leaves, and fibrous roots. Contrast that with dicots, like a mustard plant or a huge mango tree. Dicots have two seed leaves, net-like reticulate veins, and a really strong central taproot anchoring them down.
All right, moving into section 4, Kingdom Animalia, the invertebrates. We're looking at the escalation of complexity here, starting with the animals without backbones, which, by the way, make up the vast majority of animals on our planet. This right here is a literal map of escalating biological complexity. It's wild. We start way at the bottom with phylum Porifera. These are your pore-bearing stationary sea sponges without true tissues. Next up, we add stinging cells with colenterata, like the hydra. From there, the body plans just get more and more evolved. We flatten out with platyhelminthes like tapeworms. We get cylindrical with nematoda, the roundworms like ascaris. Then we add complex segments with annelida like your everyday earthworm. Jumping ahead, we see some really advanced adaptations, the soft bodies and protective shells of mollusca like snails, and the spiny-skinned marine life in Echinomaredata like the starfish.
But wait, I have to specifically highlight Arthropoda. This is the largest phylum in the entire animal kingdom, featuring jointed legs and an exoskeleton. We're talking insects, spiders, crabs. Because of that tough, protective exoskeleton and jointed leg setup, this body plan is almost too successful. They account for over 80% of all known animal species. They absolutely, hands down, dominate the Earth.
Section 5. Kingdom Animalia, the vertebrates. Let's shift gears and look at the animals that did develop backbones, the subphylum Vertebrata, and see how they evolved to conquer literally every corner of the globe.
Following our own broad family lineage here, step 1 starts in the water with Pisces, purely aquatic fish with gills. Step 2, we get amphibia, like frogs, brilliantly bridging the gap between water and land. Step 3, reptilia. Reptiles evolve dry scales and creeping movement to fully conquer dry, arid land. And from there, the tree just beautifully branches out into Step 4, aves, the birds with feathers built for flight, and Step 5, mammalia, defining features being hair and mammary glands.
Now, a perfect textbook example of why we have to look way past surface appearances is the whale. I mean, a whale looks like a giant fish, right? It lives purely in the ocean, just like Pisces. But look closer. A fish has gills, a two-chambered heart, lays eggs, and is cold-blooded. A whale, it breathes air through lungs, has a four-chambered heart, gives live birth, and is warm-blooded. This proves it's not a fish at all, but a highly evolved member of Mammalia that just decided to return to the sea.
In that complex biology we see in whales, it brings us right to a massive evolutionary milestone, the number 4. 4 chambers in the heart. See, while fish have 2-chambered hearts and most reptiles are rocking 3, aves and mammalia have 4. It's a total game changer. It allows us to super efficiently pump highly oxygenated blood and maintain a warm, constant body temperature no matter what our environment is doing.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 6, Classification as Evolutionary History, the Ultimate Family Tree. So, why does all this categorization actually matter? What's the takeaway here?
Here's the thing. Taxonomy is absolutely not just some boring filing cabinet for naming stuff. It literally mirrors evolutionary timelines. It shows us precisely how species adapted and branched off from common ancestors. When we trace the line from a simple unicellular organism all the way to a complex multicellular mammal, we're doing more than classifying. We are reading the exact history of life's progression, highlighting massive biological leaps, like adapting from water to land.
This quote perfectly sums it up. The classification of living beings is closely related to evolution, providing insights into their evolutionary relationships. When we look at shared traits, like say the backbone that you share with a whale and a bird, or the vascular tissue a massive pine tree shares with a tiny little fern, it scientifically proves we all originated from the same starting line. The closer organisms are grouped together in this system, the more recently they shared a common ancestor.
Because evolution isn't just something that happened in the past. It's a continuous, ongoing process. So, as you look at the incredible diversity around you, from the simplest moss to the largest whale, it really makes you wonder, if this system maps the entire history of life, what entirely new kingdom or class might evolution create next? As environments change, what is that next branch on the tree of life going to look like? Kind of blows your mind, right? Keep that in mind the next time you step outside. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.